She founded the Safe Space Foundation as her desire to help vulnerable women and children, as well as treating her own experience of sexual abuse. Eugenia is a Ghanaian, a young social entrepreneur and women's advocate, and she looks at trying to create this focus around advocacy for gender-based violence. Eugenia, you are a very, very brave, remarkable individual.
Thank you.
And I use the word brave because we still live in a society that just doesn't understand
Right.
why you should talk about your experience, especially your kind, so much.
Right.
But you do it because you want to change lives. Can you describe what the moment of selflessness, in that moment of being physically, sexually abused, what it did to you?
Right. Okay. Well, to begin with, it's a pleasure to be here to talk about my story. It's always very difficult to reflect back on my experiences as well, but I would try not to get too emotional on the show as I talk about it. But for me, my experience started when I was 13 years old. I had just lost a parent. I just lost my father. So I was in a very vulnerable place. And someone that I trusted, who was much older than I was, violated me. So years after that, I kept experiencing sexual violence, not from this person, but from different people. And honestly, to tell you, I did not even recognize that it was traumatic for me up until it was too late. And I didn't have the kind of direction that I needed, and I didn't consult in people. So I just basically winged it my entire life. Like, my trauma, my pain, my experiences, I just went through it like that. So in 2017, I was online on Twitter, and a guy came out to say that his little sister had been sexually assaulted. And immediately, I started campaigning online that we needed to do something for this particular girl. I contacted him and asked him what I could do to support him and his sister, of course. I then didn't have any knowledge on how to help people, even with sexual violence. It's just because of my experiences, I understood what it meant to be a victim, and I understood what it meant to be a survivor of sexual violence. So after I reached out, I told him, you know what, I need to be able to use my voice and what I can do to help other people like myself. So what can we do? That's what I asked him. So I told him I wanted to start a foundation, and that was at that very day or the next day, I tweeted about finding volunteers who wanted to help for us to start something to help survivors of sexual violence, and that's how we birthed the Safe Space.
When you think about how you could have possibly not come out to be able to talk about it, or not come out to be able to even help other people.
Right.
What does it do to you? Because there's so many people like you who will just not have even a quarter of your strength.
I just, from that day, I couldn't bear the thought of not doing anything anymore. I didn't understand. It's everything that I do is channeled to what I do right now, and I would never be comfortable if I stopped doing it or try to find. The thing is, with me, my experiences didn't break me to the extent that I couldn't reach out to other people to help them. It just strengthened me. So for me, I'm able to stand and then be a voice to those who have had similar experiences as me, but cannot do the work that I'm doing because it takes a lot as well. I constantly have to speak to people who are being traumatized, and then it triggers me back and back again. But for me, I'm able to use that pain in order to help other people, including myself.
But how did you find the strength?
I have no idea. It's something that I think that ever since I was a child, I lost my father on my birthday, so it was a very traumatic day for me, and I don't think that I fully was able to grasp the pain. So it took a long time, just as much as my sexual violence I didn't feel the trauma then. It took quite some time
to realize
yes, so the processes were just
you're feeling.
Yes, it was just a step by step process of me coming into terms with the pain and the trauma that I have felt.
Is there any moment, any event that kind of woke you up?
the day the guy described what had happened to that girl on Twitter, that was the day that
that was
everything
your
changed.
moment
Yes.
to wake up.
Every
What did you do with your own personal experience? No, what did you do with your own personal pain and confusion? What did you do with it? Because to help somebody else,
you have to help yourself.
you have to be able to have helped yourself.
Right. It wasn't up until I started doing the work for other people that I realized the kind of work that I needed to do for myself as well. But I recognized that there's no end to the healing journey when it comes to a survivor. It's a continuous process. There's never a time where you say, okay, I'm good. This pain, I'm done. I'm never going to feel it anymore, because you never know what's going to trigger you. That kind of thing does not die. It just transforms you into a different person. Your pain is what you use to do different things. For me, that's what I stand on. For me, it's become a part of my identity, not in a negative way, but in a way I can use to help other people, including myself. Now, my journey to healing is not over. For me, every time I still have days where I break down and I get triggered, and I spend some time in solitude. I spend some time reminding myself of the very things that I tell other people, and that's how I keep going. That's what I can say.
What has been your best source of strength?
My best source of strength. Honestly, the vulnerable people. When I think about people, and people the thing is, every day there's something going on. There's never a time where there's not somebody that you have to support or help or lend a hand to. Some people have traumas that just hits them after like 20 years of their lives. And for me, that's where I find my strength. My strength is being able to be there for those people. Nothing else matters for me. That's how I feel. That's where I find my strength. Every day, the fact that I know that after they talk to me, they have a bit of hope, in their journey, that this is going to be okay and that they're not alone. Most of the times, most people face a lot of things that, collectively we all go through, but they don't understand. They don't understand that, somebody else is going through the same pain as you, so it's going to be okay. Somebody has gone through it and they're fine now, so there's the possibility that you can also be healed. And that's all people want to hear. They just want the support. So I find my strength in supporting.
One of the most horrible experiences I read about, or actually I heard about, on radio was, families, mothers, parents, just literally saying that even though they're very aware that their son or their daughter had gone through some form of violence or sexual based violence, that they won't pursue they won't pursue the case, they won't pursue the violator, they won't pursue any of this. I mean, they would rather move away than go to court. And what do you think when you hear these kinds of stories where parents will say, you know what, it's a family member, it's a whatever, so for Miami it's okay? What goes through your mind?
Well, for me, I tend not to judge people for the decisions that they take. Sometimes it takes a lot. We know how society can be very harsh on people. We also know that our system is sometimes not 100. Our system does not support victims at all. So even for the ones who go ahead to want to press charges, the system themselves beat them down, and it becomes far worse than it was before. Some people like to refrain from shame because our community has a way of victimizing you. Sometimes some parents would like to protect the child from further damage. Some parents are also very selfish. They blame it on themselves. They don't want to feel like they failed the child, so they'd rather not come into terms with it at all. So honestly, if we had a better system, I feel like most people would go ahead and take the cautions that they need to take or the steps they need to take. And that's why we're doing the work that we do, right? So one day if the system is much better than it is right now, people would have the strength and the courage in order to go and then report. But it's going to take some time. It's going to take some awareness to educate people, especially parents, when it comes to letting the community, the society, everybody see through their vulnerable stages, what has gone through, what something that they're dealing with privately in their lives. Most people don't want to deal with that. But
when we come back, we'll talk about safe space, and what the foundation does, what it means to Eugenia, and most importantly, what it means to women and children who are victims of sexual-based violence in Ghana and eventually in Africa. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Anita Erskine, and there's so much I want to share with you on Anita Erskine Network. So you've got to subscribe and hit that bell button so that every single time we've got something new, you get notified. I'll see you on the other side.
You're welcome back. Eugenia has just finished describing her drive for helping women and children who are victims of sexual-based violence. Eugenia, do you ever stop and wonder what kinds of policies would protect women and children?
Yes.
And
I
what do you
do.
do about that?
Well, we're actually still advocating for, we are part of a lot of organizations that are, lobbying for these policies to come into place. For an example, currently we would love to have a sex offenders list in this country, which will help a lot, because after you've been caught to be a perpetrator, you have to be recorded in a database for everybody to know that this is what you're capable of, because most of the time we have no idea who is a rapist or who is not. So I think that's one of the things that we're currently fighting for as well. And the comprehensive sexual education in schools as well. That's one of the things that I really care about and we're advocating for.
Tell me about Safe Space Foundation. Who are the people that you're coming to contact with, and what does the foundation do for them?
Well, the Safe Space is an all-round anti-sexual violence organization. We create awareness for children, we create awareness for the youth, we create awareness for survivors. We provide them with the toolkit that they need in order to, get their lives back on track, because most of the time these survivors, they don't have any hope. They feel as if the pain that what happened to them, the traumatic incidents, they cannot be better than what has happened to them. And so the Safe Space also, one of the things that we do is to provide self-defense classes for free to survivors and then victims of sexual violence. Most of the time, most women would also want a bit of training in order to feel like confident when they go out. They want to be able to feel like they can protect themselves. So we offer that to them as well. We go to schools, we go to organizations, and then we create awareness on consent. We create awareness on how to treat survivors, how to talk to survivors, how to report, breaking your silence, that sort of thing.
Tell me about the success you tell yourself you are, quote unquote, enjoying as a result of you selflessly advocating for this cause.
My success. Okay. Can you frame it again in another way?
There is one, I think it's one thing being called an advocate.
Right.
It's another thing being called an advocate who's actually doing a lot.
Yeah.
And then it's another thing who being called an advocate, doing a lot, and seeing the fruits of your labor.
Yes.
What are some of the fruits of your labor that you are seeing that just refuel your advocacy all over again?
The survivors that I constantly talk to and we work with, them letting us know that life is much better now since they came to talk to us. We've, stood by and gone to the police with a couple of people. So justice has been served in some of the cases that the Safe Space has stood behind and supported. Those are my main successes. That's how I feel. I get very excited when I find out that survivors are living a much better life than they were before when it comes to their mental health and the state of how they feel and their confidence especially, and what we do for them.
What do you advise survivors to do? I know that everybody's story is very different.
Yeah.
But I also feel that ultimately, when you stay alive after the assault, when you stay alive, there is something that either eats you alive, or ruins you whilst you're alive. what do you suggest to survivors to do to not just stay alive and exist,
Yeah.
but to turn their lives around even after such horrible experiences?
I tell them, just take a day at a time. It's going to get hard sometimes, but it's going to get okay again. And we're all doing it. They're not alone. I'm here for them. Whenever they need help, they can reach out to us. When they can reach out to somebody. Most of the time with survivors, we keep silent, and that's how, we die inside most of the time. If you reach out for help, someone is always going to be there. But even if they're not, keep reaching out for help until you find it. That's what I always tell them. It's going to be okay. Sometimes it's going to get hard, but eventually it's going to be okay. Just take a day at a time, and you are not your pain. That's what I tell them. You're just a product of what happened to you, but that does not define you. The trauma that happened to you, the violence that somebody else took on you, don't punish yourself more because that's what somebody else did to you. That's not what you did to yourself. And you need to be able to stand up for yourself. You need to be able to find that. Recognize that there's more out there for yourself. And that's what I tell them most of the time.
I want you to finish this interview with words of encouragement for anybody watching who, regardless of their age, and I find that a lot of people, it doesn't matter what age you are. I think that if you haven't dealt with it, you just haven't dealt with it. I mean, and even worse for the younger, younger boys and girls, or younger people. But what's that word of encouragement that you would leave them with today?
What I would say is, it was never your fault. You didn't deserve that, and it's going to be okay. That's what I would say. It's always going to be okay.
It's always going to be okay.
And it was never your fault. Most of the time, victims blame themselves for something they might have done to deserve whatever's happening to them. The clothes they wore, they should never have gone there. They should have never trusted this person, and somehow they deserve what happened to them, but it was never your fault. Anything that anybody does to you to hurt you is not you. It's all on them. So don't punish yourself more for what somebody else did to you. That's what I tell them.
Okay. Eugenia.
Yeah.
Because of who you are and what you do, I invited you on the show, not because of what you've gone through.
Yeah.
And I have to be very clear on that.
Yes.
Your presence here is not because of what you went through, but because of who you've become.
Right.
And what you have done with, who you've become. And I know that there are so many people who are trying to survive. The reminder, even when they see someone, even when they see someone who looks remotely like their violator, I mean, it probably just triggers everything all over again. But I think women like you who don't only, or people like you, because it could happen to male and female, I think people like you who don't only just look at what happened to them and say, well, you know what, I'm better now, I'm older now, I'm stronger now, but who go the extra mile and say, well, if I'm doing better, then it's time for me to help someone feel better.
Absolutely.
I think you are the kinds of people who make the world a better place.
Thank you.
No, I thank you.
Thank you.
I thank you for doing that. And this is a gift from Flisco to you.
Thank you.
And the message is simple. We respect you. We really do admire you. And we just hope that by telling your story and by also explaining what you've done to your experience, that more people out there, regardless of who, where, how they are, how old they are, will know that they can also stand up and make a difference, even though what happened to them is absolutely horrible.
Yes.
So we really respect you for it.
Thank you.
And I guess we also congratulate you for it. You didn't have to do whatever it is you're doing, but you are.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And I love my print. I love my Flisco. And not just because, it looks nice on me or it complements my skin tone, but because I think that with the kind of woman I'm becoming, what I wear is indicative of how I feel about myself.
I agree.
And I hope you feel the same way too.
Thank
so
you.
this is for you.
Thank you so much.
To turn into whatever you want. I like that. And to and just remember that you are such a powerful woman. And somewhere somebody is looking at you and saying, wow, I want to be just like Eugenia.
Amen.
Amen to that.
that. Thank you so much for having me.
So, you can talk about trauma, you can talk about violence, you can talk about, all these things that could break down an individual. But I choose to finish, this particular episode by talking about another person who is my Shiro highlight for the day, who has faced that adversity, and today who is saying just what Eugenia said. It happened to you, it's not your fault, but you can turn it into something great, something good. You can turn it into a game changer. Take a look at our Shiro highlight for today.
My name is Radia Tanko. I'm a journalism student and a fashion designer. My mom was a seamstress, so I learned sewing from her. From childhood, I practically grew up seeing my mom sew. So at the age of like 5, 6, I could do something. Growing up, I wanted to be a banker. When I got to some stage, I realized at this point, I want to go into the media. I want to be able to educate people on a whole lot of things. After SS, I decided to go back to school. I really liked school. Due to financial restraints, I couldn't go. The issue of marriage came in. There was a man who came looking, though he didn't come directly, so I didn't even know the man. It was someone who came on his behalf. He said he was looking for a wife. So I didn't know much about him. I said no, but pressure from left to right, and because that was like the third issue of marrying someone. The first one, I think I was able to say no. The second, the same thing. And then the third one, my dad, I wasn't really in contact with my dad, but then he said, like, as for this one, I cannot just reject, I have to do it. But then when I went to the man's house, I had to flee because the man had 2 wives and 6 children. When I went, I realized, no, I can't stay. This is not the life I projected for myself for a long time. So I left, and when I came back, I had a lot of people telling me that you are 22 years, you don't want to be a divorcee. Like, there's this tag they put to ladies, especially we Muslims. If you get married and then you come out, they have this tag they put on you. They go like your value has reduced and all that. Then I said, no, I don't care. Like, I just want to start my life all over again. So I started working. There's this guy just opposite my house. He does male dresses. And I went and talked to him. Then he gave me one of his machines and I was working. My work was good. Along the line, I was able to get a machine. So I worked for close to a year. Then I decided to enroll myself in school. Unfortunately, I had admission. So I borrowed some money from him, the owner of the shop. I borrowed some money from him, and then the little I was able to gather, I added and then paid 60% of my fees. Then I started going to school. In less than a year, I was able to secure a shop for myself. So I had to move from where I was. I came, and then I'm now working at my own shop. The problem starts where you think someone owes you, someone is supposed to take care of you, someone is like responsible for you. But I've gotten to a stage in my life where I realized that no one is responsible for you. You are responsible for yourself. Then I started telling myself that I have to work extra hard. I have to pray as well. I have to do things that ordinary people don't do. When you are not financially independent, you'll be forced to get married to someone you wouldn't get married to on a normal circumstance. I believe that every person should have something doing apart from the normal academic thing. I believe in handicrafts because it has really helped me a lot. It's something that has really changed my life. So wherever you are, anything you can do, baking, cooking, sewing, shoemaking, bag production, anything you think you can do to support yourself, something little. And one thing I've always said is, if you're able to get good and positive people around you, not just someone who will remove 100 cedis and give you, no, someone who would advise you, this is how you go with your life, this thing is not right, this is the right thing you should do. If you're able to get those kind of people around you who give you good advice and they don't even give you money, you are good to go. I'm proud because if nothing at all, from my family, my nuclear family, I'm the only female to attain education to the tertiary level. If nothing at all, at least I'm proud of myself. And my mom looks at me and she's like, you made some decisions and I was angry, but right now I'm proud of you. Yeah, so